Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bright Founders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. My name is Matthew, and today I'm joined by Youngchild, who is the CEO of Data Driven. How are you today, Nata?
Doing well, thank you. Excited to be here.
Good. Nata, can you give us a brief overview of Data Driven?
Yeah, absolutely. Data Driven helps Amazon sellers and Amazon vendors grow and explode on the Amazon marketplace. It's a software that vendors and sellers can use to maximize the potential of selling their products on Amazon.
Now, tell us a little bit. Was this your idea? How did this come about, Nata?
Oh, man. Yes. So I started in the e-commerce space when I was in college. I started running a company that delivered groceries to islands in the Pacific Northwest, up in the Seattle, Washington area in the United States. There was no one delivering groceries anywhere, especially not to islands at the time. And I saw an opportunity with islands, given that there's a pretty large barrier to entry to go off the island, to wait in a ferry line, to catch a ferry, to pay a ferry toll, to go to grocery stores to get your groceries, to bring them back to the island and do the whole thing back again. And so there's a big incentive to use a service like grocery delivery. So that's why I started in that geographic region. I was running it in college. I ran it all throughout college. And then as I was getting close to graduation, we started operating in high-rise apartments in downtown Seattle as well. We leveraged a similar model of trying to go to the most inconvenienced customer. So we went to high-rise apartments that had no parking garages. So we knew that these people, their cars, if they had them, would be far away from them, or they didn't have cars at all. And it was going well. And at the time, we had just been featured in Huffington Post as one of the top 10 apps to never have to leave your home. It was a really exciting kind of speed moment for us. We went from no competitors to there started to be a few more competitors. Instacart, which is now a unicorn and worth more than $1 billion, which is a story for a later part of the podcast, maybe. They went and got funding. We didn't. We went from 0 competitors in our region of Seattle to 1 competitor, Amazon. Amazon started to launch a beta test of Amazon Fresh, their grocery delivery. Very exciting and humbling time. We got featured on the local news in Seattle as they contacted us and said, hey, we're going to do a segment on Amazon launching grocery delivery as a test program in Seattle, and we wanted to compare them against another company. You guys are the only ones delivering groceries in Seattle, so we chose you. We were so excited. They ordered the same grocery list from us and from Amazon. Our groceries got there faster and were cheaper, so we were like, this is the world's greatest advertising. And for whatever reason, I think we had around 300,000 people go or visits to our website over the course of the weekend, and only 3 paying customers.
No.
3. Yes. Yeah. So it was like the most inspiring Friday and humbling Sunday of my entire life. My co-founder and I, grappled with that in different ways. For him, he decided he didn't want to deal with B2C and the fickleness of individual customers and the challenges of, moving individuals and their shopping or just habits in life. He was like, B2C, I'm done with it. I'm never building anything for B2C ever again. And he went down the B2B path, and he has a very successful company, and he took a bit of what we started and really exploded with it. And that was his path. I chose a different path. We had a lot of people sign up for our service from Amazon. I reached out to them and found my way into an interview and basically, gave them my backstory of what I built. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have tried to sell my company to Amazon, or I would have tried to, gone to an incubator and raised money. But I didn't know any of that. I came from a blue-collar family and just happened to start something that was in this world. And so I didn't have many mentors or people to kind of guide me along the path. So long story short, I got a job at Amazon. When I got a job at Amazon, I quickly realized that kind of corporate America wasn't necessarily a healthy place for my entrepreneurial spirit and kind of desire for freedom in lots of ways. So while at Amazon, I was basically looking for an opportunity for how can I go back into entrepreneurship, did various things. I started coaching snowboard lessons on weekends and at night. I bought some rental properties. I started renovating them on weekends and nights as well. I didn't sleep much back then. And then I got this light bulb moment of I was learning basically the secrets of how Amazon worked. And there were a lot of people out in the world, brands, individuals, starting brands or large brands, all of which, wanted those secrets and would love to operate their businesses based on those secrets on Amazon. Yeah. And so that was when I said, okay, I'm going to start an Amazon agency. So I started as a services company where I would get clients who sold on Amazon. I would take a percentage of growth and I would run their businesses for them. And if I grew, I would make money. If I didn't grow their business, I wouldn't make money. It never happened. Never had a client that we didn't grow. So it was pretty exciting. And then a couple years into it, I kind of hit a classic, what got you here isn't going to get you there situation. So two things changed. One, the kind of the rules, the tricks, the secrets of how to run an Amazon business were changing, becoming more complicated, becoming more dynamic. They were different in the deodorant category, from the shampoo category, from the books category. And it was too much to try and know all of those secrets and update myself with all those secrets all the time. That was number one. And so my competitive advantage was slipping. And number two, I went from a low number of competitors to a massive increase. We had a lot of ex-Amazon people like myself, a lot of people who started as just Amazon sellers themselves, a lot of people that worked at agencies and parted ways. And there was just a lot more services and YouTube videos and lots of other ways to get information about how to run an Amazon business. And so I had the classic, right? So if demand was, let's call it stable, maybe it was going up a little bit, but stable, but supply, was way down here. So I always had more demand than there was supply. And now all of a sudden supply is outpacing demand. It's not a good place to be in with any business. Your whatever you're selling becomes commoditized. And so price to serve was dropping. And so I was like, you know what, maybe I don't want to join this rat race, this race to the bottom, especially when I've lost my true competitive advantage. But another light bulb moment went off for me. And I said, I wonder if there was a way to record every decision we made on an Amazon business and learn from the results of our own actions, what was still working today and what was working better or what was working worse. And so we could audit and change what we did based off of recording all the actions we took. And I had lots of account managers at that time, so it was more than just me. So I got my former boss at Amazon to convince him to leave Amazon. He joined me after I think he was there for 7 or 8 years. And he helped me build Data Driven, which became a software platform. Our first customer was my agency. So our first customer was my account managers, who used to just manage 3 brands per person. And by the time they were using Data Driven, the software, they were able to manage 30 brands per person. So we 10x'd their output. And that was when the light bulb moment went off to me. One of two things. One, we can serve a heck of a lot more customers than we were before. And the price to serve was it was being commoditized, but not 10x. And so we got in front of this commoditization problem. Or two, we also could lower the cost to run a strong growing Amazon business, and we could reach more customers. So back then, the cost to serve capped me to serve kind of bigger brands or brands that had, many employees, potentially even distribution in many countries. Whereas now I was getting to a state where I could serve, single entrepreneurs with the exact same great guidance, even better guidance, actually, because it was starting to be based on data science, not just a human's experience. So there we go. That's Data Driven. I just sold Data Driven in January to a company called Carbon 6. We've been acquired. It's exciting, thrilling, interesting experience to be acquired. And so now today they decided to keep me on. So I'm still the active CEO of Data Driven at Carbon 6 currently.
That's fantastic. So so a lot's happened. There's a lot to unpack there. Big names that you're throwing out there, when you started and you said, Amazon being a competition for you, that must have been quite something to deal with. I mean, that's a big name. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know that. And to run into that and then to end up with them and to keep reinventing and reimagining ways and keep yourself sort of above that sinking ship, as you mentioned earlier, that race to the bottom, to constantly keep yourself up, to keep treading water. And it must have been quite taxing.
That's a good way to put it. I agree with you. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, it has been. I think if I didn't have the motivation to be kind of be self-reliant on my impact on the world, my income, my freedom, to want to be in control of those things, I think I would have lost steam a lot along the way. But it's pretty powerful when you're dead set on a desire. How much that desire can motivate you to achieve things you might not think you can do. But it's also proof to the classic adage, whatever it is, 99% of the battle is just showing up. And I really find that to be true in all of entrepreneurship. I'm the CEO of this company, but I've also invested in others and have mentors and peers and friends that are also entrepreneurs and CEOs of companies. And I think what I've seen stable and true, whether you're selling products or selling software or selling cars, at the end of the day, you can't accomplish much if you're not showing up. So I think that's the secret ingredient, and the rest usually, the rest has a way of working itself out.
I like that. Absolutely. 100%. Somebody said something similar once. Actually, my girlfriend, she said, if you don't ask, like if you're not there, it's already a no. If you, like you said, if you show up, it's half the battle. Tell us a little bit, you and your partner, you went your separate ways and you started to build something, and you accumulated a team around you, I imagine, a good team that's helping you. And
absolutely.
And then you've had your big sale. Tell us a little bit about building your team, getting to the point where you actually managed to sell.
So before the sale, there's a book by I think it's Reid Hoffman, who the co-founder of LinkedIn. I think it's called Blitzscaling, but he does a really good job in the beginning of that book describing like different phases or stages of a company and making it analogous to a family, a sports team, a village, a community, a state, a country. I can't remember the exact kind of plateaus that he did, but it's for something very similar. And I found that to be quite true in the early days. When it was just my co-founder and I, and then it was, I think our first employee was his sister. So it not only was it figuratively family, it was actual family. And then as we started to hire folks out, I will admit the first couple hires were easily the hardest. We went from 0 employees to, I guess, probably somewhere around 30 or 40, depending on how much you count contractors as employees. And easily the first probably 3 were absolute hardest to hire, because it was not just an activity of hiring for the first time to work for you. And so you have to be a little different. When I had employees of mine, when I was at somebody else's company like Amazon or other companies, it's a little different. I was handed a job description. I was, mandated a particular interview process. But when I got to choose all of that myself, that was fun. But on the flip side of that, the entrepreneur goes through a challenge of delegation it's very real. It's not that it's hard to do less work. That's a beautiful thing about a part of delegation. But when it's your baby, when you kind of sculpted something that has the need for other employees, it can be hard to accept that someone else can do what you did, or what you used to do for the company, and someone else needs to do that now. And I think that was really challenging for the first couple employees. But then quickly after that, it became, we actually adopted Amazon's interviewing process and human capital process. So Amazon has a mantra of, be slow to hire and quick to fire. Idea being, take people through quite a process that really tests their knowledge, capacity, capability to handle nuances of particular jobs. And they have a good process that we borrowed and learned from, and edited for ourselves. And yeah, I'm a big believer in, the Patagonia founder has a saying. He says his MBA is not a degree on the wall. Instead, it's a management style, and he says it's management by absence. And I'm a big believer in, if you hire the right person for the job, and you find the right incentive models and understand their motivation is aligned with the outcome of the job, the best leaders are the ones that get out of the way of great contributors. So I've really tried to practice that as we grew, and that got away from me a little bit, to be totally honest. Through our acquisition, a lot of people are no longer with Data Driven after the acquisition. And it saddened me in a big way for that to happen to them and their families and their career and then the impact that would have on their lives. But it took a much bigger company than me, the company that bought us, bigger and more experienced company, to see some of the faults that I didn't see, and some of the people that I had in different various positions that were holding ultimately the product and the company back from some expansion. So it was an interesting and humbling experience as well. Right. It's the more of the what got you here won't get you there, right? You can't just manage by absence. You need to, learn other management styles along the way. I'm coming to find that.
So it's interesting. There seems to be a pattern here of getting to a point and going, okay, here we are now, and maybe a step back, but then a few steps forward, and then learning something new. Growing a little bit and then learning something new. And there's a lot of contributing factors in this story. What is maybe something that you've learned about yourself, like a lesson that you've learned about yourself? You said it in the beginning. If I knew then what I know now, things would have been different. What is one of those big things that you might have learned?
About myself or about business?
Myself, yeah. You as a person.
I would say this is good. This is good that there's no prep for this at all, that it's straight from the heart. So what comes to mind is I used to view, when I started on entrepreneurship, when I chose not to get a job like all my friends, work for a big company or a small company, when I chose to be the one responsible for, providing value that people would exchange, money for. When I chose that path, I chose it with a bunch of gusto, a lot of ego, a lot of self-determination, and those were all quite very. Those attributes and qualities and skill sets were quite helpful in. It's kind of crazy when you think of I'm just gonna have an idea, and I'm gonna somehow convince other people to give me money for this idea, and it's gonna add value to their lives. Like, it doesn't always work out. And it can be very hard, and you gotta have a healthy ego for moments of that to even think that you're the one that could do that. And so I'm grateful for those things. But when I started out, I started thinking I was starting a marathon, and the end goal was millions of dollars and freedom and happiness and joy and making other people's lives better for working at a better company than other shitty companies in the world. And I had all these kind of ways of thinking about this path I was on, but I viewed it as a marathon. And I think what I've learned about myself is it's important to run for a long time and have the capacity to do so. But there's a grace, I think I've learned, that I have to give myself to accept that there will be chapters in the book that I'm writing, and it's not just one chapter with a start and an end, but rather there are many stories within the long journey. And as one chapter is written, it can come to an end and a new chapter can begin, and it doesn't diminish that chapter didn't make it all the way through. And I didn't give myself that grace in the beginning. And so I think what I learned was to handle the ups and downs, you need to give yourself the grace to start a new chapter and close an old one.
Absolutely. And that's a big step for a lot of people, saying, right, there we are now, it's done. This is it. We're closing this door, and the ability to look forward and say, even though we've closed that door behind us, there are ones we can open as we head forward. It takes a lot for people to be able to do that convincingly. talking about opening doors in front of us, what is your outlook now? Moving forward, you've just gone through this big sale. Are you settling in? Are you feeling like, okay, this is how things are going to work for a while? What are you looking towards?
Couple things. Number one, I still have there's work to be done with data-driven to best capture the value that it has in the new parent company, Carbon 6. So I'm very excited and motivated to contribute to that and have the resources and knowledge and skill set and experiences of people at Carbon 6 to integrate with that value that can be contributed to a very, very large addressable market. So that inspires me as an I guess once an entrepreneur, now an employee at a bigger company, which is in a very interesting transition. But I'm still quite inspired with bringing that to fruition. I think beyond that, data-driven will be in good hands. And Carbon 6 is an exciting, cool company. They raised a Series A, I think around $66 million, a very strong, quite large Series A, and they're on to their Series B. And I think they have, they're a rocket ship that's doing really amazing things in a very large addressable market that, for whatever reason, other groups haven't kind of brought things together and to serve that customer in one place the way I think Carbon 6 is doing. So I'm excited to transition from, being the guy on the front line leading into the battle to being the cheerleader on the side and supporting them and accepting that new phase in life. But like I said, still some work to be done to get that to a good place. And then separately from that, I think in entrepreneurship, something I didn't take as serious when I embarked on this journey 15 years ago or so was while it appears you have work-life balance because you don't go to somebody else's work, it's very easy to, forget the life that you wanted outside of your pursuits as entrepreneurship. So my wife and I just got married. We unfortunately had to put that on hold for several years because of COVID. COVID shut down our border. So we actually couldn't be together. I couldn't even get to my own wedding. Pretty crazy.
Oh, no.
But anyways, we're finally married this last year.
Past this, you couldn't get married because you were in separate countries?
Yeah, my wife's Canadian. I'm American. And for the first time ever, that border was closed, shut, closed. No one could cross. And so we had to cancel our wedding because of COVID made it so lots of people couldn't get together. So that was a tangible challenge for a wedding where you wanted to have lots of people in one place. But two, the wedding was planned in Canada, and not only could my people from America not get there, I couldn't even get there.
Yeah, and you were at least 50%.
So we had to
arrangements, so you had to be there.
Exactly. And we looked at everything from literally getting married at a fence where I was on one side of the fence and she was on the other. Because if we were married, it would have made it easier to get family reunification visas. And so we looked at all the things, but we chose to hold. My wife's she's a very practiced and skillful person at delayed gratification. And I think it's a very impressive skill set. One I didn't realize I didn't have, but I don't have it much like she does. And she held out and wanted for us to have the wedding that she had dreamed of and wanted for us to celebrate with our family and friends, and we did. And it was really something special, a moment that changed me, and I'm forever changed because of it. So I'm grateful for that. But so we missed many years of our life that we had planned, and so to that end, I plan to spend a lot more time with my wife and building our nest and starting a family and having kids, and prioritizing that more than I did in the past. Right? You can't make babies while you're doing emails. You can't make babies while you're on business trips. You can't provide for a nurturing home and a healthy relationship with your wife or your spouse if your mind is elsewhere. So I look forward to making that a big priority in my life, and integrating that differently than personal endeavors such as that were in the first 15 years of my career.
I'm glad you brought that up. It is one of the things we like to touch on is the work-life balance. And obviously, over the course of these, I've heard a lot of different answers, and it seems like it's a lot to do with a mindset. But it's also something that grows and changes with the business and where the business is in its growth. And sometimes you got to be in it 110%, and there's no world outside it. And as things fall into place, you find time, and your responsibilities and your priorities change, and you grow into those modes. I was the same. I didn't have work-life balance a few years ago. It was work, and I lived my work. And now it's important to be at home on a Sunday afternoon with a fire and a cold beer, and there's no job in the world that's taking that away from me again. So it's
absolutely, that's beautiful. That's very well said, Matt.
Now tell me a couple quick fire ones for you. Well, just two that I always like to ask people. One is a motto. So I always say, if we have to write something on your bedroom wall, you're going to wake up, you're going to see it every day. What does it say on your bedroom wall?
You are who you are when no one is looking.
You are who you are when no one is looking. I like that. That's beautiful. And who said that? Do you know who said that?
Yeah, Ross Filkins, my football coach.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
When you say football, do you mean like American football or English football?
Yes. American football. Yeah.
American football. Okay, I have to find out. I have to make sure. You are who you are.
Of course, yes.
And then tell me, any role models? Anybody you look up to?
Yeah, a lot. Richard Branson comes to mind in the context of this conversation. But so does Matthew McConaughey, who is Our Lives Are Nothing Alike. He's an actor. I'm an entrepreneur. But his zest for life and his book Green Lights I had recently read really resonated with me. This concept of, life's gonna hit you with lots of intersections, and you need to put your foot down on the gas pedal when it's a green light. And yeah, that really resonated with me. So yeah, Richard Branson, Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, those are the two that come to mind in this moment.
Matthew McConaughey is quite a weird spirit. Like I knew him as an actor. The more I find out about him as a person, he's a very cool guy. Very cool.
He is. I want to add one more to it though. Russell Brand. I have to add Russell Brand. He said, as people from afar can impact your life. He's had a huge impact on my life.
But he's a new import for America, isn't he? I mean, he's running his show there now. That Stay Free, his podcast, Stay Free. I think he's running it from America. He's getting very much into American politics and getting under the layers, digging through into the stuff. It's very interesting.
For sure. Yeah, I've been I've been a fan long before, when he was an addict and his ways of coming clean and finding his path in life. And I've really appreciated his honesty, his authenticity, and his willingness to, not be contrived in his responses, in his work and his life, and to just be authentic and not give a fuck about the outcomes and deal with them as they come. And yeah, it's been inspiring. I look up to it.
That's cool. I like that. Before I let you go, anything you'd like to add about anything you think it would be important for our listeners and our viewers to know? Any pearls of wisdom or anything about the business, the company that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. If you're in the space of selling products and you're not on Amazon yet, you have to get on Amazon. It's such a large marketplace. There's so many fish in that pond. So if I never spoke to any of you and you sell products, I hope one thing I could tell all of you is to leverage the power of marketplaces. It's a lot of work to get customers interested in what you have to sell and get them to show up and then actually buy your product. And, when you leverage marketplaces such as Amazon, you just have to do the last part. You just have to get them to buy your product versus everyone else's. You don't have to get them to show up. You don't have to aggregate them. You don't have to get them coming back. Marketplaces do that work for you. So if you sell products, I couldn't scream loud enough to leverage the power of marketplaces.
Fantastic. Nate, I'll let you go. Thank you very, very much for your time tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.